Hello, my name is Harika, and I'm going to be talking about my artwork titled String Theory. We always make art about what we know, but these days I feel like I don't know a lot more than I do. I find myself trying to navigate post college life and early adulthood and wade through quarter life existential crises. And it's very humbling and maybe a little bit ironic to realize that the more I learn, the less I know. And my knowledge base, not only now, but even at the end of my life, will be infinitely tiny compared to the vast amount of collective information in the universe. I also realized that this feeling, this point in my life, is not anything new. It is a vastly universal human experience. And this set the theme for my final project and began a long process of questioning as I thought of what else is universal. On a molecular level, the same elements and atoms and particles that make up the food we eat, the plants on this earth, and even the organs in our bodies were once generated billions of years ago. And after we die, our bodies decompose and those particles return to the earth. Our individual lives are a blink of an eye in the lifetime of the universe, and our bodies are microcosms of galaxies. Matter itself continually arranges itself in increasingly complex ways, evolving to organic matter, life, and ultimately consciousness, the evolution of the universe into a coherent, self aware form of existence. We truly are the universe of it, in it, and with the absolute privilege to be able to perceive and experience it. While much of the human experience is universal, the way two people go through life can be enormously different. Even though we all inhabit the same planet, governed by the same laws of physics, have the same five senses, and feel the same basic emotions, no one will ever fully be you. Consciousness, in and of itself, is a subjective experience. This makes objective reality and objective truth more difficult to decipher. I became very interested in what true objectivity means, if there even is such a thing. Even something as objective as color, for example, is energy in the form of light waves, reflected at a certain wavelength that our eyes can recognize and our brain perceives as a phenomenon we call color. Similarly, membranes in our ears vibrate in response to sound waves, and our brain interprets this as sound. There are other animals that can interpret light waves at wavelengths outside the scope of visible light, or small sense that we cannot decipher. The human mind is analogous to a radio, tuned to the specific radio station of human or even your own personal consciousness. Although the human experience is pretty great, we are limited to experiencing and seeing the universe through this particular lens. It's clear that our perceived reality becomes our objective truth. And even human consciousness has different flavors. Harika will always do Harika things. I am the product of every experience I've ever had and every person I've ever interacted with. And so are they. This shapes thought patterns and belief systems and biases and personal narratives and actions, forming you and I and every other person on the planet. Similarly, we are all connected to one another in the people we have affected, like a fractal folding into itself or a single strand of rope winding to form every object and place and person. A tug at any end ripples through. So I set out to depict this fact that human consciousness is an ultimately subjective experience, and things are rarely as objective as they seem. Moreover, I became interested in the process of questioning itself that got me to this point, and wanted to convey the experience and curiosity and questioning. So what does a question look like? I began to explore and interrogate the aesthetic nature and qualities of a question. I knew that it would be less representational, and I thought about pixelation, a way of blurring form that is analogous to blurring a concept or an idea, ultimately a blurring or perhaps widening of meaning, less quote-unquote objective. I thought about where I could find a question and where I encounter questions on a daily basis, and the research lab immediately came to mind. Coincidentally, a common form of visualization of sequencing a human genome, essentially reading DNA base pairs, resembles pixels as well, each colored block representing one of 4 DNA bases. Breaking down images into shapes and in individual pixels while simplifying things also makes things less clear. It was interesting to think about the sort of reductionist approach and how it's been applied to a lot of science as well. It's pretty easy to conceptualize a human being or even a cell, but breaking it down to just a long list of base pairs brings up a lot more questions. Human consciousness is an ultimately subjective experience. I hope this work disrupts your own processing of it and sparks questioning, or perhaps even leads you to think back to a moment where something you so strongly believed was proven false. I am eternally grateful for every single person I've interacted with thus far, even if just for a moment, as they have shown me so many vastly different ways, but equally valid ways of going through life that have led me to question the way I live my own. The statement that everything is connected is cliche on its own, but it is the process of questioning and the wonder and reflection in that process that I hope to impart, as I realize there is a certain solace and serenity in questioning, even if the act in and of itself begs an answer. So these days I am still questioning. These days I am a lot less sure and a lot more content. Thank you.